Hello, welcome to the old shop. I'm here in the front garden. It's late August, it's full moon, and there's quite a bit of updating to do. I've just had some coffee and the garden guardian is here, and you will notice that he's turning green, which is exactly what I would hope he would do. He's doing it quite quickly as well, but I think it's because he's under where the water drips on him when it rains because the gutter leaks, and that's really helped. I don't know really quite what he thinks of that, but he really does look very fairy. So the front garden in front of me here is not looking very different probably from last time we looked, but I'm just sitting here, so I thought I would just pan around just to have a quick look. I just so love the grasses, and I so love the heleniums with the bronze coloured flowers, which really, when it's dull like it is at the moment, they really glow and really warm the place up. As I said, there is quite a bit of updating to do, so I shall start by showing you what I've been doing with the candles, because that's been the main focus here for the last, well, quite a while really now, quite a few weeks I think. I've been preparing all the packaging and just recently pouring the candles themselves, and I've just literally finished the pouring process. Today, well no, really yesterday I finished, and I think that was the full moon, so I felt quite pleased the timing had worked out that way. It was quite nice to feel they were completed then. So the next thing to do, of course, is going to be to start the packing production line, but before that I thought I would pause and put together a video, so just so you can see how things are progressing here. We had loads of rain. I think I always say that. It's one of the things I know that I always say, but we have had a lot of rain for Norfolk, and we've also had some bits of sunshine as well. So, but it has felt quite wet recently, really. It rained earlier this morning, but we've had some quite nice sunshine earlier this afternoon. It got quite hot, and now it's gone dull again. So, anyway, I should go inside and I shall put this video together, and then you'll see what's been happening. And I think that's it really. I think that's the programme for today. I just wanted to show you this that happened yesterday, which was old Lammas by the Julian calendar, and I'm just outside the hedge of the old shop, so the sparrows are kind of around the other side mainly, and you can see, actually just see the top of the chimney pot there, but also you can see the top of the hedge. What was a holly hedge and is now mostly a bramble hedge, and yesterday a big trailer of hay bales came past, and I'm sure more and more will now, and it's caught on the hedge, and you can see all the You can see all the hay stuck to the hedge. So I thought, well, it couldn't be a more potent symbol really of the time of year. Right, so here I've got the strips of fabric that I've torn, and I should have said that I started by washing the curtain, and quite a hot wash, so that it's what they call scoured, meaning it should take the dye up nicely. And now I've torn it into the wide strips just because it'll make it easier to fit into the dye pot, and there are the two slightly different shades here and here. So the next thing to do is going to be to weigh this fabric, dry weight, and see how much it weighs, and then that will help me to know how much mordant to put in, which will help the colour to stick and to stay. Well, I'm just chopping up the willow leaves and the stems because there's dye stuff in the stems or bark as well as in the leaves, and I'm going to be simmering these for about an hour in water. I need to do it in 2 batches because I've only got one pan that I'm used for dyeing, and I've only got 1 ring anyway because I had a little two ring hob, but one of them's broken, which is the larger one, so I've just got the smaller one I use for basically everything anyway. And because willow isn't toxic, I'm happy to do that in the kitchen, which is what I was actually the fabric at the moment is simmering away in the mordant, and then that will rest overnight, and I shall start simmering the willow, and then I'll leave that overnight as well once I strained it, and that'll make a deeper colour that way. I think you can probably leave it for 2 or 3 days and get an even deeper colour, but I'm just going to leave it overnight and come back to it in the morning. So I shall continue with this, and I shall show you the next stage when I come to it. Now, just to bring you up to date, what I was left with overnight were these 2 bowls, vividly coloured, but they were all I could find, and they've both got half of the fabric in, and they're soaking in the rest of the mordant. So they were just simmered, and then I've left them overnight. And what I've done is I've put 2 strips of each colour in together so that they're kind of even, because the darker colour there ones are a little bit heavier, so it's kind of evened them both up. So that's those, and they've been sitting there, and they can now be rinsed and actually put into the dye bath. And now in here also 2, I'll just take the lids off and show you overnight. This is where I've simmered the willow leaves for about an hour in 2 batches because I hadn't got a very big pan, and I've put 1 in each of these old soup tubs, which are really useful if you ever have any way of getting hold of things like this. These are old catering soup containers. When I was at the tea room, we used to have them, and I used to ask if I could bring them home because I knew they'd be useful. I left the fabric overnight in the mordant, and then today I have rinsed it and put it into the pan again with the willow liquid, which I've boiled up just briefly and then let it cool, and it did go a really beautiful red colour. And I've put the fabric in, as you can see, and it's just going to come up to the temperature, which is just simmer. Then I'll take it off the stove and leave that again overnight, and so it cools and everything. And then tomorrow, that's when it will be ready, and I'll dry it and tear it into little strips, and then it'll be ready for tying up the packages. So that's the plan anyway. And I've got another pan full like this. I'm doing everything in double because I couldn't fit it all in otherwise, as I mentioned. So that's what it looks like at the moment. It should get a deeper colour overnight, and I'll make sure that all the fabric is submerged. I don't think it'll be a particularly even colour, but that's quite nice because it shows it is hand dyed. And lovely, it looks beautiful colour at the moment. It always dries a lot lighter than the colour it looks in the pan, but then it's going to be sitting in the dye overnight, so it should get quite a bit deeper. Anyway, we'll see. I'll show you again tomorrow. I've left the Willow dye baths overnight. There are 2 of them here to fit everything in, and as you can see, it has taken on the colour, the pinky colour, orangey pink. And if you look, if I just move the spoon down like this so you can see the liquid that's left, you see it's almost colourless because the fabric itself has grabbed all the colour out of the willow, which is exactly what you want to happen. So I don't think it'll be anywhere near as vibrant as this when it's dry, because it always looks more exciting in a way than it really is when it's wet. But I'm happy with it because for me it's more about the concept, the fact it is willow that came from beside the stream, and I'm using it to tie the packages for the candles when I tear it into strips. So that's the plan anyway. So I'm going to rinse it, and then I'm going to hang it up on the line to dry in the lovely sunshine which we've got today, and then I shall show you when it's ready to tear into strips, and hopefully it will be quite pretty. So this is my little production line for pouring the River Song candles, a few at a time. And what I've been doing first is I've lined them up, and I've been putting safety labels on the bottom of each one. That's the last one I've got to do, so I'll show you that one when I've put the label on, and which didn't take many moments, but it's essential. And the next thing will be to stick the wicks into them in the very centre of each one. I'm doing my utmost that everything about the candles is environmentally friendly, except for these actual safety labels, which are clear plastic, but I haven't found a source for them that are not, but it's just one tiny part of the whole production. Otherwise, I'm making sure that, for example, the wax itself is not only vegetable based, being rapeseed and coconut, but it's also biodegradable, as all packaging is, and the wicks themselves are eco wicks. So we'll see how it goes, but the first stage is just to get all the pots prepared, and then I'll be able to start the actual exciting part, I think, which is the blending and the pouring. And each pot is going to have a little surprise in each one, which won't be such a surprise because I'll show you the stage when I put them into each pot. A wet morning has turned into a really, really hot, sultry, sunny afternoon, And I've just quickly walked over the heath because I'm going to go down to pick some alder cones down in the little car. Hopefully, anyway, that's the plan. I haven't got there yet, so I can't say whether that's going to happen. But on the way, I've walked over the heath, and you can see, I thought I'd just show you the way that the paler purpley, pinky purple heather here has really taken over from the darker variety that was so much in evidence until, well, recently it's just coming over. But just suddenly, literally in the last few days, the pinky purple heather is just as far as you can see. It's that shade. I love the way it just subtly changes all the time. I'm hoping to see an adder, but I always say that, but it is that just the right kind of conditions because it's been wet this morning, and now suddenly it's really hot and sunny, and really, I mean, really hot, really quite hot, and I wonder whether they will come out and bask. But if I do see one, you will be the first to see it too, unless it slithers away too quickly. I'm on the other side of the road here from where we're going to go down into the alder car, but I just thought I'd pause at the stream, and actually a heron just flew off from about there, but it's gone further down. You won't be able to pick it out. It's right down the end, far further end of the bank there. I think I can see it just because I know where it is, but it's a little tiny dot now. But this stream is quite variable as to how attractive it is. It can look really quite not very nice and polluted, but actually at the moment it's looking pretty nice. I think because it's part of farmland, I think it's a little bit more than just being a drainage channel. Drainage channels feed into it, but it doesn't move very fast. Well, sometimes it does. Sometimes they seem to pump it over the water under the bridge here, I suppose to aerate it, but it's not happening at the moment. But it still actually looks quite good. So I can see some over the other side there. I can see some purple loosestrife, and which is nice. I see a little bit of proper wild vegetation. Obviously brambles and reeds, and it's quite pleasant. And it's just a little walk down the road. It's just the other side of the heath. And as I say, we're going to go into the alder car in a minute and see if I can pick up some cones to decorate the packages for the candles. Last little touch. So we just crossed the lane, and this is where I go into where the alders are, and it's quite a wet area. But since I last was here, there's been some wires put up here, but to be honest, they don't look exactly heavy duty, and I don't think it's sort of looking very strongly keep out. So I'm going to go through, and so I'll just see you on the other side and see what it's like under the trees. Well, the answer is very overgrown. Very damp, but not ringing with water, not actually like pools of water like it is in the winter, where you can see the trees reflected. It's not like that, it's just muddy and quite nettly. I've just got nettled, but I'm going to look for some cones and then I'll show you what I've collected. It's very atmospheric down here. Once upon a time, all the valley bottoms really would have been like this, damp, not drained in any systematic way like they are now, and big alders like this one in front of me here, which looks as if it's on a kind of little island. That's exactly what they were, and they'd be surrounded, and these in fact are, in the damper times of year, they're completely surrounded with water, so they are literally little islands on their own. And you can see quite a few of the larger multi-trunked alders, and they're all like that. They're all kind of raised up on little mounds, just naturally, the roots and the way the sediment piles up around the roots. I can't see a lot of cones. I think it's a little bit early in the season actually for the cones, but I don't think I'll find enough for the packages probably, but it's nice to come down here. So I'll have a little route around and just see whether I'm missing anything, because sometimes you just get your eye in and find there's more than you think. And just as I thought, really, I got some here. When you actually start looking, and you just see they're only little tiny clusters in the mud, but they are quite freshly fallen. That's why they're not actually muddy themselves. So another little cluster here. So I'm just going to keep collecting and see how many I can see how many I can find. Just a little wander around. What's really nice is that it's actually made me come down here for the first time for a really long time, and just quite close to one of the little islands, so you can see it's really quite fairy-like with all the moss and ferns growing around the roots. I think there's something very special and magical about alders. Where I lived before, there was an alder carr really close by, and I used to go down there very, very early in the morning, like at daybreak. Sometimes it would be really early if it was summer, 4:30, something like that, 5. And what a magical place, and that was full of alders and wet and moss. It's not just alders down here, there are oaks and birches and hazel as well. And this one, which is obviously toppled at one point and grown up again, is an oak. And the oaks are on their little islands as well. There's another one over there, that is an alder. And yes, old birches as well, old gnarled birches. So it's actually quite mixed, but they're all species that don't mind being damp. At the very least, they're not necessarily right in the water because of the way this oak here has grown up on the mound, and maybe it's only the ones on the higher ground that survive. I don't know when the woods were formed. There's some little saplings as well in little groups where they've obviously seeded themselves, and you can see the first leaves just starting to fall. There's one in front of the lens now, yeah. But it's really very dry, really. It's not, I thought it would be wetter, because even where it looks muddy, you can walk on it. It's only kind of superficially muddy, and there are lots and lots of footprints everywhere, which are not human footprints, but there'll be deer, groups of deer coming through. So that's nice to see as well, because you see the secret life of the woods, or the carr, which is what you'd call wet alder woods are called carrs. I thought you might like to see this alder tree, or the bottom of it here. You can actually see right through it. Oh, did you hear that? Green woodpecker. Can't see it, but you usually can't. So this is the rest of the tree. I've been finding that you get your eye in, and I'm not going to find enough to put a little sprig on each of the packages, but I'm going to find enough to put one little cone, maybe on the little cards. I'll see when I get back. But I just wanted to show you the amazing base here. If ever there was something of fairy, isn't that beautiful? Just lovely. On this little island of ferns. That was a bit more of an adventure than I'd bargained for, because looking back into the woods, I was in there and I actually couldn't find my way out. I knew that I was in the end, because it's not a very big space, but I ended up making my way to the wrong side, and there was a field and barbed wire, and I didn't recognise this at all. And anyway, I kind of followed the opposite direction where I could see light, and I've come out here, and I'm sure that you can see all these rushes. This is the stream again. It's very overgrown, but this is the stream that I was following to start with. So I know that if I keep following along the edge here, it's pretty overgrown, but I'm sure I'll find my way through like the muntjacs do, and then I should come back to the lane. But it's interesting how I didn't really panic, but it was just that you realise how easy it is to lose your sense of direction when you're somewhere where it looks the same whichever way you look. And I didn't really know how to start to work my way out. But anyway, I'm here now, and although I'm not out yet, I'm pretty sure that I'm on the right track because the stream is here. It's always good to have something like that kind of landmark. I know I'm on this side of the stream. I know I can't have crossed the stream, so I know that if I keep it on my left now, I'll come back to the road. This is where I've been, and now I'm out. Back to the wire, back to the lane. Very nice to see it. And on my way home.